I guess I really don't know what Christmas is all about.
Okay, I recently learned about my new favorite group of women in history, and they're called the Night Witches. They're an all-female Soviet pilot team who bombed a bunch of Nazis in World War II. They would fly at night in these planes that were too small to show up on radars, and when they got close, they would turn off their engines so that they would swoop low and be silent when they dropped the bombs. The women were from ages 17 to 26, and as you can imagine, they had it pretty rough. They were constantly sexually harassed, and they got frostbite a lot of the time because it was so cold when they were flying and they didn't have any windows. They were also only given hand-me-down uniforms and equipment, and a lot of times their engines would stall while they were flying. So what did they do? They climbed onto the wing of the plane in mid-air and would restart their propellers. It's estimated they completed over 30,000 raids, and we love a group of women killing Nazis.
You're back on True Crime TikTok. On June 7, 2012, this 911 call was received. Warning for graphic violence and murder.
911, what's the location of your emergency? What's going on there?
I just shot my mother and my...
Shot your mother?
I committed a double homicide.
Okay, you shot your mom and who?
Nephew.
What happened?
I lost my mind. I don't give a shit about this life anymore, and I don't care.
Okay, well, I don't want you to do anything to yourself, okay? I don't want you to kill yourself.
Yeah, I know you want your case.
No.
If you're going to act like you're personally interested, I was an abused child. My scumbag family lied and lied and lied about it, and I just snapped. My mother's brains are on the driveway.
41-year-old Adrian Wallace was arrested and put on trial. After 12 minutes, he was found guilty and will spend the rest of his life in prison.
Hello everyone, welcome to Serial Killer September. Dennis Andrew Nielsen was born on November 25, 1945 in Scotland. His father left the family and so his grandfather began to fill that role, becoming his best friend and hero. He loved fishing and often took Dennis along with him, however on one particular trip he died. This crushed Dennis, leading to a preoccupation with death. In his youth, Dennis discovered that he was gay, and after a brief service in the military, he moved to London and began to have affairs with men. Eventually, though, this wasn't enough for him. He killed at least 12 male victims with attempts to kill 7 more. This terrifying man kept the bodies for as long as he could, acting out a sort of relationship with them until they decomposed. He kept the bodies in his floorboards and flushed parts down the toilet, even asking maintenance to come help him with the clogging. These parts were then discovered by the workers, who called the police that then came to arrest Dennis. He confessed to everything, and when asked why he killed, Dennis said, "I hope you will tell me that." Follow for more.
You're back on True Crime TikTok. In North Carolina on December 9, 2001, this 911 call was received.
911, where's your emergency?
1810 Cedar Street, please.
What's wrong?
My wife's had an accident. She's still breathing.
What kind of accident?
Still downstairs. She's still breathing. Please,
Is she conscious?
What?
Is she conscious?
No, she's not conscious.
Okay,
Please.
how many stairs did you
What?
fall down?
Huh?
How many stairs?
Stairs.
How many stairs? Calm down, sir. Calm down.
No, 15, 20, I don't know. Please, get somebody here right away. Please.
Okay, somebody's dispatching the ambulance while I ask you questions.
It's in Forest Hills, okay? Please.
48-year-old Kathleen Peterson was dead. Her husband, Michael Peterson, had made that 911 call. When help arrived, they noticed a lot of blood and that the blood had dried. Michael said that him and Kathleen had drank 2 bottles of wine. She must have been drunk and fallen down the stairs. The autopsy said different.
Staircase Part 2, Warning for Graphic Violence and Murder. On December 20th, 2001, Michael Peterson was arrested and being accused of first-degree murder. The autopsy showed Kathleen Peterson had 7 lacerations to the back of her head, bruising all over her body, and damage to her neck that the medical examiner said could not have been caused from falling. During trial, it came out that Michael and Kathleen were in a lot of debt, and Kathleen had a $1.4 million life insurance policy on herself. Michael was having affairs with men, but he claimed that his wife knew about his bisexuality. In 1985, Michael Peterson was the last person to see Elizabeth Ratliff alive. Elizabeth was found dead at the bottom of the stairs. Originally declared an accident, the body was re-examined and determined that it was no accident. Michael was found guilty, but later was able to file an appeal and get a new trial on the grounds that one of the main experts who helped convict him often faked evidence. Michael agreed to take a plea of manslaughter and was given credit for time served and released. He claims that he's innocent even today. This video was made using Crime Door. They have hundreds of cases, including Kathleen Peterson's, where you can access a 3D version of the crime scene in your own home. You can download the app or visit the website, and make sure to follow them on TikTok at Crime Door.
Kendrick Johnson was a 17-year-old boy from Georgia. After not returning home from school, his mother reported him missing. His body was found upside down in a vertical, rolled-up mat in the gym of his high school. It was assumed that Kendrick had been reaching for his gym shoes, which he kept inside the mat, and had gotten stuck. The death was ruled an accident, the cause of death being positional asphyxiation. Kendrick's family was not convinced, and they believed it was a covered-up murder. Kendrick's body was wider than the diameter of the mat, leading some to believe that he was rolled in it. The shoes Kendrick was wearing looked to be placed on top of him after his entry. There was a pool of blood under Kendrick, but there was no blood found on the shoes at the bottom of the mat, leading some to believe that the scene was staged. There was also about an hour of footage missing from the school's security cameras. The family decides to do a second autopsy, but they find Kendrick's organs missing and his body filled with newspaper. Organs are never found, but the autopsy reveals there was blunt force trauma to his neck. The family believes that 2 fellow students murdered Kendrick, but the case is being covered up because of Kendrick's race and because of the police connections that the students had. But there has been insufficient evidence to prove this in a court. Was this a tragic accident or something more sinister?
It's not often that kids kill their own parents. Before we go any further, warning for graphic violence and murder. Dee Dee Blanchard, previously a nurse's aide, gave birth to a baby girl named Gypsy. When Gypsy was 3 months old, Dee Dee was convinced that she had sleep apnea. She spent weeks in the hospital with Gypsy getting tests, but they all came back negative. Dee Dee began giving Gypsy drugs to mimic symptoms of serious illnesses to convince doctors that she was ill. When Gypsy was just 8 years old, her mother began forcing her to be in a wheelchair even though she knew she could walk. Dee Dee would get cash donations from charities like Make-A-Wish, Walt Disney, and even McDonald's. Gypsy had over 30 unnecessary procedures done to her, including one that caused her teeth to rot and need to be removed. Dee Dee would take Gypsy to sci-fi conventions. It was one of the few things she looked forward to. While at one of these conventions, Dee Dee finds Gypsy in a room with a man she'd met on the internet. Dee Dee drags her out, and when she gets home, she smashes Gypsy's laptop with a hammer and threatens to smash her fingers if she... It's not often that kids kill their parents. Gypsy Rose, Part 2, warning for graphic violence and murder. For the next 2 weeks after that, Gypsy was restrained using a handcuff and a dog leash to her bed. Dee Dee also had a lawyer draw paperwork giving Dee Dee full rights to Gypsy. Gypsy meets a man online named Nicholas through a Christian dating website, and they begin an online relationship together. About 2 years into their online relationship, Gypsy arranges for Nicholas to pop up and meet Dee Dee by coincidence at a movie. It goes horribly wrong, and Dee Dee says that he's a creep for coming to see a kids' movie by himself. After a big fight, Gypsy told Nicholas that she was finally ready, and one night after Dee Dee fell asleep, Gypsy let Nicholas into the house. Gypsy sat in the bathroom and covered her ears, trying not to listen to Nicholas killing her mother. Gypsy posted on Dee Dee and her's joint Facebook about the murder, and the police GPS tracked and arrested them. Nick got life, but Gypsy's eligible for parole in 2023.
Story time, and this one's really whack, so try to follow along. Thank you, Haley Dabbs, for sharing your story with me through my Instagram DMs. Okay, I know it's backwards to you, but you get the point. It all starts when Haley is a sophomore in high school. She is 16 years old and dating 15-year-old Mike. We're gonna call him Mike. And so one day she gets this message on Instagram from an anonymous person saying that Mike is cheating on you. We soon find out that that is indeed Mike's uncle that is actually DMing her on Instagram. And he informs Haley that Mike, his nephew, is sleeping with his wife, who is actually his aunt, but not by blood. And nothing was done about it. And then the aunt sleeps with Mike's brother as well, so she's sleeping with 2 of her nephews, one of which is 15 and the other one is 16. And she was in her 20s. But that's beside the point, because 2 weeks ago, Mike was involved in a murder of one of Haley's good friends from high school. This kid, we're gonna name him Tom, had a really big crush on Haley, and they were good friends in high school, but they ended up growing apart because they just didn't have any classes together. And 2 weeks ago, his body was found in a ditch at the end of his father's driveway. Part 2 is coming right now. Part 2 of Haley's ex-boyfriend who slept with his aunt and then now is involved in a murder. So I already explained that Mike cheated on Haley with his aunt, and then also his aunt also slept with his other brother. Haley had a friend in high school, we're gonna name him Tom, and Tom had quite a big crush on her. They ended up growing apart, no hard feelings, but 2 weeks ago his body was found in a ditch at the end of his father's driveway. And it turns out Mike, the guy who cheated on Haley, was involved in this murder. It wasn't exactly Mike who actually killed the guy, but he was involved. The guy who actually killed Tom in high school, he was like involved in all these drugs and stuff, but Mike was involved and he was arrested 2 days ago. And apparently this guy from high school killed Tom over something so stupid as weed. And I don't know the full story, but Mike was involved, but it turns out that he was just really in the wrong place at the wrong time. It was really sad to Haley because he wasn't like this when they were dating or anything, but after they broke up, he just fell into the wrong crowd. He was really into sports, he wasn't even a bad kid until everybody started making fun of him for cheating on Haley with his aunt. But that just goes to show that people can change. Thank you again to Haley Dabbs for the story.
Hi, I'm Kim, and this is the senseless murder of Emma Walker.
16-year-old Emma Jane Walker attended Knoxville Central High School in Knoxville, Tennessee. Emma was passionate about cheerleading and was the only freshman to make it onto her high school cheerleading team in 2014. That same year, she met Riley Gall. There was something off about Riley, though. He was extremely possessive. He tried controlling what she wore, who she hung out with, and would even wait at her work for hours until she got off. Their relationship began falling apart. Riley began Snapchatting Emma, saying he wanted to kill her or himself if she dumped him again. Emma's parents grew concerned, so they banned Riley from their house and took Emma's phone. Emma officially broke things off when Riley was at Maryville College. Riley tried to overdose but failed, sadly. One night, Emma started receiving strange texts from an unknown number. One read, "I have someone you love, and if you don't comply, I will hurt them." It was actually just Riley pretending to be kidnapped. He also pretended to be unconscious in her bushes when her and her friends walked outside to investigate. In the middle of the night, on November 21st, 2016, Emma's dad awoke to banging noises. He checked on Emma, but she seemed to be asleep. At 6 a.m. the next morning, her parents found her dead. Riley had shot her in the head through her house while she slept. He also tried to dispose of the gun in the Tennessee River. Riley serving a life term.